Oh God. So Robert, what did you think of the end of Cyberpunk Edgerunners?
All I can say is thank you, Angelus.
You're welcome.
Well, Angelus, I say it was Nova, like they say in the game. That's supernova.
How can how can I put it? Because I don't want to be negative, but
Like the contrary
Go
of
on.
like
Just,
if there was a opposite of Disney, that's the game. That's it.
tell us how you really feel, Robert.
well, for all of you who know me, I guess my next sentence should say it all. But everybody else, except for one person, dies. That should tell you.
Robert didn't like the end.
Hey, did you got
He
somebody
doesn't
like?
want to say it, so I'll just get it out there. And he says he's not going to trust Angelus for another IP after this. Angelus likes everyone to die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Oh boy, I had a conversation with Gio prior to the show, and we were discussing how
Backstage and shit.
yeah, the backstage. So you guys should just join Discord so you can be in backstage too. About how there are some
Maybe in the back alley.
cyberpunk that doesn't necessarily have happy endings, but they end. It's okay with me.
Robert was telling me that the Blade Runner has happy ending.
He's alive.
Happy ending. He's
didn't
alive.
die.
He's forgotten in the
Is-
desert, living in regret. That's happy.
Well, technically, it's not a
And
happy
his
ending, but
sons
he didn't
die
die.
in the snow on the second movie, alone. Well, the father goes to the other daughter. Like that's happy. It's fucking depressive, man.
Oh,
You thought
God.
you were special. You were wrong.
No, she's a contrary special, man. You sneeze and she's dead.
Oh God. Okay.
I'll ask a question, which links back to your comment about cyberpunk happy endings and characters that die.
That's never.
But my question is, when it comes to cyberpunk, I feel that the less, what's the terminology,
The more
Ray,
technology we have, the less humane we are.
when like characters actually die, plot armor, like
Oh,
the
yes.
less plot armor there is, the more darker the world becomes.
Yep.
So in a way, it adds color, just a darker color to the world. But it also
Color. Yeah, that would be the color of blood, dude. It was everywhere.
No, and they should. They started like doing just this maniac faces, like ah. So it gets you like, shit, what's
Yeah.
going on?
and it and the less plot armor, the more it highlights the struggle of the main characters, or at least that's how I feel, and that's why I tend to like. Oh, hang on a
I'll
sec.
tell you this.
So when it comes
From
to
my
cyberpunk,
experience,
I guess you go one way and I go the other because I feel like I'm more drawn toward stories that have less plot armor, and I feel that that's what makes me love cyberpunk even more because like it's almost inherent or prevalent or however you want to put it. So
So basically, you want Game of Thrones 2077.
or Walking Dead 2077.
yeah,
Actually, they were more fresh, more vanilla on the show than on the comics. On the comics, like there's a character that get his brain bashed, like and he lives on to like season 8 on the show, and they kill him like in volume 3.
Before we continue, we should we do the segments?
Yeah.
Oh, we're having those this week, unlike last week.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Define science fiction remnant.
And for this segment, you know the drill. You
We don't
can
have a
reach out to
definition.
us. I'm sorry.
We don't have a definition of sci-fi remnant. We're
Yeah.
just Us.
There you go. There you go. So if you want to shout out in any of our future episodes, you have a way to do that. So one way that you could do that is you can tweet at us or you can call our hotline at 1-305-563-6334. And all you got to do is tell us how would you define us to someone that loves sci-fi that has not heard our show.
You used
And
to call me on the hotline.
there you go. So you can leave a voicemail if you want to be heard on the show, or if you just want to text, just go ahead and send it over to our tweet account, and we'll read it on the show.
And remember, you can call us late hour. You need my love.
Yeah,
If you want Giancarlo's love call, 555.
we'll forward all those to Gio, so
Yeah.
feel free.
Well, my phone is not working, so by all means, it's gonna be
Awesome.
more chaos.
More.
There's never enough chaos.
Okay,
Never
so-
look. Here's what I tell: never say you're screwed, because you could be dragging yourself on the floor, saying "I'm fucked," and then comes a guy with a big dick and fuck you. So it gets worse. And that's anything because your
Yeah,
You
mouth
could
is
have
still available.
cyberpsychosis.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what a big dick when you're dragging yourself will give you.
I'm so glad that this is marked as explicit because, goddamn,
Yeah.
we're explicit right now.
And if you don't know by now, this is why we are explicit. So make sure. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next
Rated
segment.
PG-13.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And for this segment, we tend to talk about what the hashtag "This is Sci-Fi" means to us. If you don't already know, this is a hashtag that if you're a creator or a fan of sci-fi, you want to go ahead and use to either promote or actually just share something that you have read or open discussion for any topic that surrounds sci-fi. And the great thing about this is that you could talk about any sci-fi flavor that is your favorite one. And that's just basically what I like the most about this hashtag. And
I like sci-fi Napolitan.
I'm sorry?
I like sci-fi Napolitan.
Yeah, yeah.
And a bit of
Sci-fi
everything
pineapple.
instead of vanilla or chocolate.
Have anybody in here wants to share what their thought is about the idea or what their experiences using the hashtag or reading anything posted on the hashtag? Anyone here would like to share?
The only thing I'd like to share is that I guess it goes to the overarching descriptor of science fiction in general, because with fantasy, the sword and sorcery sort of stories, if you will, that's pure imagination. And not that I'm knocking it, but that's
Mana is no science.
imagination only. Whereas science fiction, because it's, you can take from fantasy, you can take from reality, and you can create story. I feel like you've got so much more like pools of knowledge and I guess sources to create stories. So whether it be cyberpunk or steampunk, whether it be more based in reality or whether it be more fantastical like Star Wars
Now,
in the context of
you mentioned that, Angelus, and I just need to put this on record. No, Robert, Harry Potter is not steampunk. It's not sci-fi. But yeah, I mean, and Robert has said it many times in the past. Like sci-fi usually is science that like will become the future. because that's what we're constantly trying to do, is work on science fiction that we're trying to make real science. We already
Yeah.
have airplanes that fly faster than the speed of sound. We're going to the space. This was
I
sci-fi 50
I
years ago.
like I like to think of sci-fi as a thought experiment for solutions to an issue, or
Technologies.
experimenting with an issue that exists now and
Hmm.
how it could be solved in the future. And we're actually a little lucky that this is a genre that has spanned across so many years, because like I said, I think in
Thank you,
season
H.G.
one I
Wells.
mentioned this. We have people that have grown up with a specific branch or flavor of sci-fi, then maybe that influenced them in the career path they took, in a way that they are in a position to make that portion of sci-fi they like the most, or they maybe got them influenced into the career path that they're in, to create solutions. And I hear people say all the time that um, that sci-fi predicts the future.
Hmm.
I honestly don't think so. I think that sci-fi is a thought experiment. We have a problem. Let's think what the solution would be, and then later in the future, someone is in a position to actually make that a reality. And now we have advances in science
Yeah.
because of that thought experiment that someone thought of, because of some writer in a sci-fi novel or a
Yeah.
sci-fi story.
Now let me ask you, all of you, to see what your personal opinion or answer on this. Uh, who's the father of sci-fi? Isaac Asimov of H.U. or H.G. Wells?
Hmm. I Well,
Because
you
they
know what?
call Isaac Asimov, but H.G. Wells was way before
I'm
Isaac
gonna be the
Asimov.
last one to answer, because I think I'm gonna throw everybody on a
Was,
loop.
was it Asimov that did? Who did War of the Worlds? Like the
Asimov,
actual
I think.
board?
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
but the first work from H.G. Wells, and one of the first recorded sci-fi's was the time travel machine, right?
H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
Um,
They call Isaac
Anybody?
Asimov the father of sci-fi, but Isaac Asimov was 50s, right?
I don't think there's any wrong answers here, but any other name into the pot before I throw my name in?
Well, I
Your
keep hearing
opinions.
people saying that Mary Shelley's like the mother of sci-fi.
Oh, it's
Interesting.
a
Yeah.
matriarchal system.
Yeah, Frankenstein is considered by some people to be the original sci-fi story.
What year was that Frankenstein?
Ooh, 18 something or other.
Yeah, no, the time traveler machine. I think it was 1880 something. I think there is Mr. Google.
Yeah.
Dr. Google.
Mine would be. You said it was Wells that did War of the Worlds.
Yes.
Yeah. So mine would be leaning towards him because uh, like when it comes to sci-fi and like the father of sci-fi, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
It's not so much the time or chronological aspect, but like just the, I guess, inventiveness, where like when they did the live broadcast or whatever it was,
Hmm.
like the very
Like
first
it was
time,
real.
yeah, and people
So
thought it was real and freaked out, and like just it adds that extra
it,
atmosphere.
it's a bit of a beat up. It wasn't as bad as history would make you think. Um,
Yeah.
it was basically a beat up by the newspapers to sell newspapers.
Yeah.
So don't think it was that bad. In fact, Madison on the air in the bunch of podcasts that she released around War of the Worlds 1938, including one from us, Yeah,
Yes.
by the by. But she released one. I think she's got a series about behind the scenes, and she actually has a podcast. It's a short one about the hyped idea that it caused panic in the US, which it didn't really. There was a few concerned individuals, but there was no mass panic. Apparently, it was just reported as mass panic, but it was a beat up.
They were just trying to enlarge.
Yeah, it's not like that. That hasn't been going on since newspapers were invented to sell newspapers.
It was like,
So
it was a good idea, but okay.
To answer the question, so the Time Machine novella by H.G. Wells was released in 1895, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was released in 1818.
Oh yeah, Mary Frankenstein.
So she's like way ahead.
So that's like bio science fiction.
Well, I mean,
Science fiction.
That's like primitive X-Men. That's how
No,
you created the first X-Men.
It's definitely science fiction.
I mean, yeah.
And just to, I'm going to do a little pause in the conversation here, just to answer a question. I invite everyone to go to Madison on the Air and download. There's an episode that it was actually released on October 9th, and it's called Bonus Feature, War of the Worlds, Truth About the Panic. And it's a great episode, and it's full of a lot of information about the actual truth that happened on the radio broadcast. I just wanted to point that out for the listeners.
Course. Yeah, that way they know where to find her and actually enjoy it, because her content is just fantastic, man. Like I didn't think I would find myself just playing another. Like, oh, I love this.
Nice. So, are you ready for my pick on the father of sci-fi?
I think you're gonna say Asimov.
Asimov?
Oh, you're gonna say Edgar Rice Burroughs.
No.
Yeah,
I love his work.
He has a good series, but not so much.
So the person that I'm talking about is in the 2nd century AD. Just think about that for a minute.
Okay, he's gone back a little ways.
You went Chinese.
2nd century AD, and is a Greek author, Lucian of Samosata.
Of course, it's Greek.
And he has obviously it's in Greek and it's translated. You could actually find the book today for free.
Mykonos.
It's called A Truth Story. A True Story. And a little context on that. At the time, writers made the fame in the book community by writing stories about travel and stories about philosophy and stuff like that. So Lucian was a little pissed off because he lived in a time where people were so more, remember, like nowadays,
gas price was expensive,
is all about money. And
the market crashed. The gas was so expensive.
No, but basically what it is they wrote a travel, for example, a travel book. They used to sell a lot, but they made up stories on how they encounter an octopus on the water and they destroyed the land, but they made it to the ocean. And he's calling bullshit to all this. And philosophical, they were writing all this crap. It's like everything exaggerated just so they can sell books. So he made a book and he called it A True Story, where he talks about his travel to the moon. So in my book, that is the very first sci-fi story ever written.
Damn, that's actually quite interesting.
And I like to call him the father of sci-fi. But that's
like
just
the Batman.
My opinion.
He's the Batman of sci-fi. Like the sci-fi community deserve it, but nobody knows him.
We have to do an episode on this book. All I can say.
How is the views of a Stone Age person on going to the moon?
I'm telling you.
Well, it was made of
No,
cheese.
that's
So
pre-industrial.
they didn't have to take
pre-industrial
food with
area.
them.
Pre-industrial
But,
area, like they started.
but if you're
creating
lactose
mechanisms of
intolerant, you're in
roads.
trouble. Don't go to the moon.
What?
If you're
you're what?
lactose intolerant, you're in trouble. Don't go to the moon.
Amazingly enough, he didn't made out the moon to be constructed of cheese,
Oh, good thing.
which I found that refreshing.
I'm not sure if they have much cheese back
There
then,
was
other than rotting cheese.
there was a government, there was a king in there, and they were in a war, I think, with the kingdom of Venus, and they got involved into this war.
Okay,
I mean,
I
it's
feel like
really
I
involved.
feel like you're telling me Flash Gordon all over the place.
No, unfortunately, it's not.
Like imagine all the guys like coming flying in Flash Gordon, like that's what it is. I am picturing right now.
Yeah, and I hear you. I hear you. It definitely has a vibe. No, it's not. It's very refreshing to me, and I find it very interesting that someone from the second century AD could have this, even though it was a joke to make fun of the authors of the time. I still find it interesting that he had that type of imagination to come up
Yep.
with something like that, you know?
It's actually quite interesting. I had no idea, man.
Yep.
Amazing.
So, should we go to the next segment?
We shall.
Shout out.
And for this segment, actually, we're gonna give a special thanks to Seldon Crisis for always being engaged with us. Spaceships, hey, thank you again for all the mentions, the RTs, and being always in conversation with us. And it goes down in the PM. We had to have another episode with her.
Oh, yes.
It's always awesome having a talk with her.
Yeah, if you guys
She's-
have not
she's
listened
like-
to the
we
episode
always
that we
vibe
came
when
out
we
on,
talk with her.
it was a party. We all showed up on her episode. I forgot what episode number it is, but you can find it on her stream. If you haven't downloaded that one, download it. It's, oh my God, we had such a
yeah.
blast, and it was a party. It was a total party.
Most definitely. And last but not least, man, we're going intergalactic to James Webb Space Telescope for NASA. Thank you so much, man, for being involved in our conversations. We hope that you enjoy our content, and I mean, pick our brains, man. We are not well, I am not a scientist. I just talk a lot of shit. We have some scholar educated men here that accompany me in the show.
Yeah,
You can be a
so thank
citizen
you.
scientist.
Yeah.
What?
You can be a citizen scientist.
Citizen scientist, and what do I specialize on?
You
Catching
don't have to
people's bullshit?
specialize. You just have to be interested.
Oh, I
Yeah.
am, but I'm not a scientist. Like, if you ask me anything about it, yeah, I don't know what string and wormhole theory are. You can pick whatever you like and piss you off. But I mean, other than that, yeah, I just say upfront. What I know is because of what I've gone on research or documentaries that I like watching. You know, thanks Carl Sagan for making me sound like I'm smart.
Citizen scientists don't tend to be looking into the greater depths of the universe. They tend to be looking at the world around them.
But yeah, but I mean, we're going intergalactic, man. Shout out to my people in the ISS, including the Russians. Krufta.
Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you and every one of you listening.
Hey, and shout out to Angelus. Woo!
Woohoo!
Yes.
I'm not that guy again. Jeez, he gets it. Hang on, there he is.
Yeah, thank you so much for the engagement. We really appreciate it. Again, there's nothing better for us than having that
Unfortunately,
sci-fi
you're not picking the
conversation.
next episode, Angelus. Robert made that clear.
Well, I love my
Yeah,
cyberpunk. Love my
you had
sci-fi
taken
in
a lot.
general.
You had taken a big toll in his emotional security.
Oh my God.
Robert feels afraid of turning on the TV now.
Is that what it is? That Twitch?
Yeah, you're gonna feel like it's gonna break your heart again. And I mean, when you love like you love, you give your heart. The only thing that you got left to lose is your soul. And when you lose your soul, it's gone, man.
Oh man. Okay, before we start talking about the show, let's go on to the next segment.
The Outer Remnant.
And for the Outer Remnant, I think we have two, right, for today.
You should have said like you didn't say last time. Like I think we have one, and that's it. That was the intro to the other Revenant. I think we have one.
And that's it. Next segment. For all of you who are not familiar with this segment, basically what it is if you want to hear more of us, these are other places that we want to shout out for a specific reason, where you can hear us talk more about any other topic besides the topic that we talk in this podcast.
Yeah.
So where have you been recently, Angelus? Shove.
Well, quite a few places. In particular, there's this one thing that I think I'll leave up to this Max Tacturai dude to speak about, because he seems to be following me around like a lost puppy. But but I mean, yes, I say I love sci-fi, love cyberpunk, love whatever. But I mean, it's no. I'm gonna do a Robert and say, for those that know me personally, my first love is and always will be Alita. So you can find me on the Alita live stream, which is usually on Saturdays, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason why I'm sort of hesitating and sort of thinking in my head is because I'm from the future. So that's usually about.
I think that's Friday, right?
When
For
he
us.
says Eastern Standard Time, he actually means Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Yes. So, and we're usually
Eastern Standard Time is considered, like
so he's like the
Coast
Florida of
USA,
Australia. You're like
which would
be
be
Angelus is like the Florida of Australia, right?
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Something about that,
on
yeah.
Friday. Yeah.
We're usually about 15 hours ahead, give or take. Because, with all this daylight saving.
I think it's about 6 p.m.
So, yeah, you can find me there. And I guess I'd like to highlight that mostly because I let my hair down, so to speak, a lot more often, even though there's not much up there at the moment.
Hey man,
mainly
for what it's worth, I am actually in denial.
For all of you who are not watching the stream, Gio is revealing for the first time.
I have a ponytail, but it just comes from the back of my head.
There's a huge, blank spot in his head.
And then I make meats and with the top. I look like a Homer Simpson hippie version.
Blind spot? You mean my eyes? Because that shine isn't so incredible.
Yeah, I am going bald like a bisexual man, both ways, back and front.
Hang on, let me do my impression of Gio.
You go.
Oh, come on, man.
No, I can't even do that.
My father's forehead ends in here.
In the back of the head.
Yep.
Essentially, if you look up Alita live stream, you'd usually find the live streams there, and we just talk endlessly, mostly about Alita, but we can just go so far off the beaten path that we'd probably even be treading to the realms of sci-fi because we're that far off.
You say endlessly, and you're almost not wrong from that last episode, because wasn't that like nearly 4 hours?
Wow.
Yeah. I think it was like 3 hours and 40 something.
Ray,
Yeah,
you had to separate a whole day for Radio Chaos Day, right? Just because you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see if we can, set the. Well, that's the record at the moment, but
What
see
time?
if we can.
We'll plan to do like
longer.
the 27-hour, the 24-hour streaming, something like that, and we take turns. Because there's actually, I've seen like there's like an achievement or things like that streamers do, where once they get certain amount of following, they actually do so many hours streaming. So they will do 12 hours streaming nonstop.
Yeah.
just talking and whatever and being on the camera. Maybe we do that.
But I like to point out that when you love something, 4 hours is nothing.
Oh, I know.
And I want to say, if you are a sci-fi lover, or especially an Alita lover, you're going to really enjoy those streams. So
Yeah.
I would invite you to go on. They're all recorded on YouTube, so you can go ahead and find them. And it's a lot. It's a treat to be while the stream is on, because you can interact with the conversation. So I invite everybody to go look it up on YouTube, and if you're a sci-fi lover, you have to.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely.
Okay. So you have another one.
Yeah, where I've been hiding is where I've usually been hiding, which is the Radio Chaos live stream on the Alita Army channel. If you're a Alita fan, you know where it is, and if you're sick of hearing me talk about this, I'll make it quite nice and quick so we can get on with the topic at hand. But obviously, Cyberpunk plays into Alita Battle Angel because it's cyborgs, so it fits right in with our topic today. But what we were talking about in episode 136 last time round was just how powerful is the Damascus blade as a plasma weapon. So I actually went into this one going, oh, geez, have we got anything to talk about? And the guys came through, especially Muskogee Creek, who likes to make PowerPoint presentations on these things. He's good like that. So he waxed lyrical for a good 45 minutes to an hour on his ideas, with comments interspersed by yours truly and Angelus and occasionally Tony, and text from the crew listening. And when he finished, I said, "And thank you for that TED talk." Because it was quite involved. We were talking about how hot the plasma would be, and what it would be able to cut through, and how plasma works as a weapon, and what it is, and
the whole lightsaber conversation all over.
Basically, yes. Yes and no. I mean, the lightsaber doesn't have a solid core, whereas the Damascus blade does. Rah, compare and contrast, all that sort of stuff. But it was good fun. We had fun.
Yeah, those are the geeky conversations that we love.
Ooh, yeah. So check that one out. That's episode 136 of Radio Chaos, the Alita Army live stream on the Alita Army channel on YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you. So now we have one thing to do.
Cry me a river, Robert.
I want to put a disclaimer out there. You hear me say how I hate the ending. I hate it with a passion. It's not my cup of tea. But in the same breath, I can tell you this show is awesome.
Oh, it was good.
And people that play the game are going to love it even more.
If you play the game, especially if you love the game, this is a must watch. A must watch.
Yeah.
I might not be watching this a second time, but
are you gonna watch if they get another season?
If they bring him back,
I venture to guess that they're not gonna bring him back. It's gonna be just like another character, and forget about the people from season 1. This is a whole different story.
Obviously, everybody knows this is spoiler territory, big time, but. You're all gonna die. You're all gonna die.
Game of Thrones / Walking Dead kind of deal.
Oh, I forgot. Spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
I think that Robert. I think that we by half of season 1 we decided we're not gonna say it anymore.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
People to know that.
We wanted to announce when we started our podcast in season 1, every single episode, and then we just got tired because if you listen to us, you're going to spoil the heck out of it. So,
yeah.
Oh, What we're
I
talking
learned that
about.
very quickly in season 1. I went, okay, I'm not going to listen to that one because I haven't seen that yet. I've seen that. I'm listening to it.
So, and that's the reason. If you guys look through our catalog, our back catalog, I try to make it as easy as possible for you guys to, since we have so many spoilers, you could actually see if it's a TV, if it's a movie, if it's a game, if it's a book, and it tells you what it is and the chapter, and basically if it's a TV show, it tells you the season and the episode.
And I don't think the listeners would be like, oh, look, something that I haven't watched. Let me listen about it.
Well, you'll be surprised. I had people that they asked me, this episode sounds interesting based on what I put on the description. It's like, I have not seen the property yet. Should I watch? Should I listen to your show? And I said, listen, we're all about spoilers. However,
you gotta do like that, teacher. Like, can I go to the bathroom? Can you?
Well, I told them, listen, we're all about spoilers. So, however, we concentrate a lot on the topic within the show more than we do the actual show, if that helps. And that same person came back to me and said, listen, I decided to listen regardless. And I love the episode, and I'm watching the property next. And they watched the property and they said it was fine for them. I'm not saying this is fine for everybody. I'm just giving you a case scenario of one of our listeners. So you're warned.
And actually, I wanted to ask Ray before I forgot. I know that the shout outs have passed by, but he's sort of a dear friend of the podcast. How's Doc Joe doing?
Yeah, he's getting there slowly. His daughter's health is improving, so
that's good news.
Not out of the woods yet, but certainly on a path through the woods.
Yeah, we would love to have him back on our show.
Yeah, it's in our regards. We'll try to reach out to him too. So yeah, Robert, sorry for the interruption. Just didn't want to forget about that.
I think he'd appreciate that.
Awesome.
Doc Joe, we love you.
So what are we talking about?
Derailing, man. Derailing. Every chance that I get, just derail.
We're talking about a Netflix original TV show called Cyberpunk Edgerunner, and specifically Season 1, Episode 10. The episode is called My Moon, My Man.
I thought it was called Robert Doesn't Like This, Not Watching Again.
That's the alternative name.
Oh, right. That was the one they were running with early on, but then they spliced
that story that makes Robert cry.
Okay, so before we forget, Ray, do you have the synopsis?
Okay, now
Chinese translation, please.
Wikipedia's made this difficult for me this week. Damn you, Wikipedia! Because rather than having an entire plot synopsis, they've got a premise and synopsises of each episode. There's 10 episodes in total.
Let's call it.
So what I'm going to attempt to do, and please forgive me if it makes no sense whatsoever, because my brain is attempting to function on caffeine and not much else. To give you an overview without it being written down by somebody who knew more about it than I did. So I've watched this show once. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Thank you for the recommendation, Angelus. It was a very good one, although I probably would have watched it anyway at some point, but it's nice to, be shuffled along and get onto these things, early in their cycle so that you can be up to date for a change. But I have not played the game, I should mention. Whereas Angelus and Gian have played it, but I don't think Robert might.
Yeah, I played it too.
Oh, okay. So I'm the odd man out. Well, there you go.
I'll
probably play it at some point. But I just haven't got to it yet. So the premise of this show is in a dystopia overrun by corruption, crime, and cybernetic implants. an impulsive but talented street kid named David Martinez, after losing everything he has in a drive-by shooting, read his mother, makes the choice to survive on the wrong side of the law as an edge runner, a high-tech black market mercenary, also known as a cyberpunk. So that's the premise. So basically,
Premise or
our main character, David Martinez, is intelligent but born on the wrong side of the tracks kind of kid, whose mother works really hard to get the money together to send him off to Arasaka Academy. Arasaka being one of the mega corporations in Night City, the location where the story is set. So I should mention that Night City is also the setting for the game Cyberpunk 2077. So this show is intrinsically linked to that computer game. So characters from the computer game appear in the show and vice versa. Yeah.
And I want to mention that me and Gio are from Santo Domingo.
So there you go.
But not for Night City, because we don't speak Creole. Well, I speak a little bit. I like Creole.
Anyway, those who are in the know would know that Night City is a very dangerous place. You can die at any time because there's lots of people with guns running around.
Just like in my country.
It almost feels like that the police force are completely useless because you see lots of them dying all the time. And basically anybody who's they call jacked up, which is basically they're running lots of cyberware in their bodies. Basically, the police have very little chance of stopping them and usually get stopped by them. When that happens, especially
jacked up is done when somebody jerks up and he's done.
I tell you that device that a lot of a certain number of the males were wearing over their genital region, which was doing the deed for them.
Oh God!
Let's just say society in Night City, there's a lot of people who just are out for a buzz and jollies, and they don't really give a crap about anything else.
Oh, Angelus knows this, but you guys know, Robert and Ray, that you can actually go and have sex with a person like a prostitute in Night City in the game.
I did not know
but I'm not surprised. He actually plays the scenes, man. Like you go into the bed, and then like she or he, because you can choose whatever, or she. And then, like, he throws you in the bed, and then it's a blur, and you wake up again.
well, you don't even need to go to a prostitute. Basically, they have recordings of
brain dance.
It's
you
called
can put it
brain
on
dance.
here, and
You basically chip the experience that somebody else has had, and you're inside their head. It's quite reminiscent of Johnny Mnemonic, if you've seen that movie, where
Matrix too.
Yeah, that too. But there's a trade in experiences, basically, especially experiences that lead to death, like the experience of somebody undergoing cyberpsychosis and then taking out a whole bunch of police and being taken down by the be-all and end-all of anti-cybernetic special operatives, which is called MaxTac. And if anybody you know me at all, that is my online name. So as a MaxTac Jurai. So
that guy right there.
I did not actually pick that name from Cyberpunk.
It's quite interesting that you say that. Actually, what you were saying about the not before the MaxTac.
Which bit?
You said before you mentioned MaxTac, you said something else that I wanted to
before I mentioned MaxTac, the be-all and end-all of cybernetic special forces.
No, in the game they don't actually give you the experiences of brain dances for like somebody going cyberpsychosis, and it's actually pretty interesting that they would do that, because I mean they just show you the brain dances in the game for an investigatory view, which doesn't make it the real use of it. So I mean, and I was not aware of that. So that was actually quite interesting.
Yeah, well, basically, the line is blurred between the real and the cybernetic. During the show, there's a lot of instances where there's two of the characters, which is Lucy and Kiwi. They're net runners. So basically, they send their
mercs
intellect into the computer system, and they run
They're
around
the IT
inside there,
guys.
cracking computer systems and stealing data, and basically because
Pretty much
everybody
what Robert
has cybernetics within them, which is run by computers. If you hack those cybernetics, you can actually shut people down. So
Pretty
a
much
fight
what
is
Robert
not
does.
just with guns or fists; it's also with cybernetic hacking. So there's that extra level.
Which might I add is an aspect that even Alita can do.
Well, yes,
is Alita that advanced like cybernetically that you can actually hack and shit? I think
there's a few scenes in Last Order where
she's just a pretty girl in a nice armor. No, I'm kidding you guys. She's actually an ancient warrior, I know.
But it's one of those tropes that's kind of expected in the future, that rather than interacting with a computer through a screen, you will actually send your consciousness into the computer system and deal with it directly, which has its own slew of dangers, you might say.
Yeah, that's how the girlfriend gets the text messages before you even know you have it. Now, Angelus, since you played, let me ask you, what's your favorite build? Like, do you go all strength, you go diverse, or you go more personality or techie?
Reflexes. I'm a crit machine.
So you go more like a physical abilities, like shooting and moving around. Agility.
Yeah, you could say I'm more of a gunslinger because my primary weapon of choice is basically handguns. Although I dabble in a few other things as well.
I like the SMGs.
So, Angelus, your characters would slot the Sandevistan straight up, would they?
I actually don't. In terms of game mechanics, that's probably the one sort of comparison that's flipped on its head, even though it's a direct, like what you see in Cyberpunk Edgerunners is technically what happens in the game, but I'll explain what I mean by when it's put on its head. In Cyberpunk Edgerunners, the Sandevistan basically makes it look like you're given super speed. In game mechanics, you're not given super speed, but everything else is just slowed down, so that when you're moving, like the screen looks like you're like going very slowly, but as soon as you pull the trigger, it's like bang, 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 bang. Even though you're still moving slowly, bang, 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 and and that's why it's good for games where you want to actually get headshots or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if you want to line them up like
you can
gunsling.
add mods to your body parts, or you can add them to the guns too. Like you're 25% or lower in your health, your speed's going to increase so much, or your attack is going to increase so much. But that's the other interesting and lovable aspect of this game, is that it's a full RPG game. So you get to actually customize and create your character to tailor it to your needs. And I mean, you have to be decisive of what you do, because as you advance in the game, there are things that you're not gonna be able to do. Like there's some people you cannot talk unless you have so much charisma. You cannot give them a specific answer that might give you a different ending. Or if you're not techie enough, you cannot hack a door that may take you to somewhere special for a nice loot.
Yeah. On the flip side, though, and this is again going more towards the game, they always seem to have alternate options for most missions.
Yeah.
And they have alternate options for all the main missions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not basically, whether you are a techie, whether you are a soldier, like be it a gunslinger or like a assault rifle specialist,
it will adapt.
Whatever the case may be, you can either fight your way out, you can hack your way out, you can sneak around in and out. So you have options. And again, while I say that it's with the Sandevistan as an example, like that's flipped on its head, with everything else, the world is, what you see is what you get. What you see in the anime is, what you'll get in the game. And vice versa. What you see in the game is what you'll get in anime form. So it's like almost like a piece of like perfect marketing in that context, because you watch the go back to a leader. Even that's another perfect example. Like those that have never seen the anime or the manga, and they 2019 they see the movie for the first time and they think, wow, I really like this. What's it all about? They look it up and they see that there's an anime and manga, and they go explore that aspect. And for those that know about that, it's like, oh, I wonder what the live action adaptation is going to be like. 9 times out of 10, it's usually crap, but as it turned out, it was really, really good. Same with Cyberpunk. If you play the game, then I have no doubt that it would make you want to watch the series, and vice versa. If you watch the series, then I have no doubt that it would want you to play the game to, feed that addiction. And in the world of Night City, that addiction is cybernetics.
I happen to have Twitter open at the moment, and in the What's Happening column, gaming trending Cyberpunk 2077 with 3,201 tweets. So we are on point at the moment, gents. Just thought I'd bring that one up. But getting back to the plot synopsis for a moment, because we don't need no stinking rails. Anyway, so the main character is David Martinez, a young fellow who lives in the wrong part of Night City. He's not affiliated with a megacorp, but he has managed to get into Arasaka Academy with his high level of academic skills. He's a straight A student, apparently. And his mother to finance said academy, seeing as she's not corporate, so she's not getting a huge paycheck. She works as an EMT for now, what do they call those guys? The armed ambos.
Yeah, trauma team.
Trauma team. Yeah. So trauma team in this story is basically like combat ambos. All right. So if you think about ambulance officers in present day, they rock up to somewhere where people have been hurt, and they look after them, and then they take them to hospital, which is all good. Thank you, ambos. We really appreciate your work every day. But of course, Night City is a lot rougher and nastier than even downtown Denver in the US, with open carry laws and all those sorts of things. People are shooting people all over the place in Night City.
It was just a Wild West,
and it doesn't seem like the police can do much about it. There's not much concern about following the laws. So the ambos need a little bit of punch. So they actually have different levels of. It's corporate ambos, so it's not provided by the state. Basically, you have to pay into an ambulance policy, a trauma team policy, and depending on how rich you are or how high spec you are in the corporate ladder.
Bullshit. No HMO shit. Error.
Well, it depends on how much Eddie you can pay.
Yeah. So Eddies are is the currency, sometimes also known as scratch, but if you've got a high level of trauma team coverage, they will actually fight their way in to rescue you and pull you out and shoot the people who are shooting at you. So there's probably a step down. There's certainly a step up from the normal police, and a step down from Max TAC, which is basically the anti-cyber special forces. If they show up, you're basically screwed.
And for those that know the theme song, diddly, 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 SWAT. They're the SWAT of Night City, basically. Max TAC.
Thank you. I'm here. What David Martinez does not know about his mother is that she's actually ripping custom cyberware out of people who flatline. Trauma team doesn't always get there in time, but they will pull your body out regardless because you've paid the premium. So they pick up a lot of zeroed cyborgs and
already sacked and looted.
David's mother pulls custom cyberware out of these bodies to so who's that?
No, somebody Night City.
Okay, fair enough. Random cyborg A. There you go. Okay. So David's mother has been selling recovered custom cyberware to Edgerunners and cyberdocs. So that's how she's been making enough money to put him through Arasaka Academy. So he goes off to Arasaka Academy. His equipment has been patched illegally because he didn't have the money to buy the latest update for the system he required for his schooling, and it basically crashes the school systems. He's on the verge of being expelled because of this, and his mother convinces the school principal to let him stay, but they've got to now pay for that damage, which is going to be a significant number of eddies. So basically they're deep in debt, but his mother is still confident and convinced that he's going to be an Arasaka corporate whiz, zooming up the ladder because of his intelligence. He's not really sure about wanting to. Sorry?
Using Night City terminology, an corporate suit.
Yeah.
Corpos.
So
kids call it.
He's reminding him of this as they're driving along the freeway, and while they're talking, a bunch of Edgerunners hanging out of their vehicle start shooting up corporate limo, which is on the other side of their car. So they're basically shooting through their car to get to their target. Because these guys are not very professional and don't really give a shit about anybody else, which basically causes their car to crash. David's mother is badly injured, and David is stuck in his car. He can't get out. His seatbelt won't release, and he can't get to his mother. The trauma team shows up, goes, neither of these two have coverage, and leave them there. So it's very cutthroat. Much like the current US medical system, if I'm accurate about that. So they don't actually show this, but somehow David manages to get his mother to the doctors, and they operate on her, and they're asking for a whole bunch of eddies, which he doesn't have. He goes back home. He's locked out because they haven't paid rent. He has to break in through the ventilation system, and he's not sure what he's going to do. He gets contacted by... he's also been selling these quasi-illegal experience chips from some dream... What do they call them? Dream... You guys are better with the terminology than I am. Dream something or other.
Yeah.
Come on, you've all played the game and I haven't. Help me out here.
You're talking about like the The
experiences, of
what
that he's
Judy
been
does,
selling
brain
on the
dances.
side. Brain dances, yeah. So he's been selling these brain dance experiences for
I was
this.
muted all this time saying brain dances to myself.
Yeah, for this guy. He's been selling them on. They're kind of like drugs, but they're not drugs. They're recorded
They
experiences.
sell snuff films, like people that like grab girls and torture them to death and shit. Like you get to see the girls, like they get obscured, man. I was like, shit, bro, what the fuck? And then you walk into the places and it looks creepy as fuck. Like you have a bed like in Saw with blood and shit splashing, a lot of plastic all over the place, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be here, man. But you're in the brain dance, so you're stuck. It's creepy.
So, he gets a call from the doctor saying his mother's situation has turned worse. He rushes over there, and she's died. He gets a.
He's like Jack Sparrow, like I got my jar.
It's the cheapest cremation he can because he doesn't have a lot of money. So now he owes all this money. He's got no income, and he's kind of stuck. Then he finds this piece of cyberware. It's the last one that his mother has liberated from a cyborg that had undergone cyberpsychosis and had gunned down 32 cops and was eventually stopped by MaxTac. And he's not sure what to do with it. He tries to sell it because he needs the eddies. Can't manage to sell it for any decent amount of money, so he decides to get it implanted so he can go off and become an edge runner and make some eddies. That goes, and the cyberdoc who does it for him, who is basically he's a bit of a weirdo. Well, there's lots of weirdos in this show, but he's a bit of a weirdo. But he's got that Jamaican thing going on.
Yeah, man, ganja electronic.
Yeah, that's the one. But basically makes a deal with him saying, I won't charge you to put this in, but basically when it's fucked you up and you need to get it removed, I get it for free. So that's the deal that he makes to get this thing called the Sandevistan installed onto his spine. So basically what this thing does is it speeds up his reflexes and his actual body speed. So he can, when he switches it on, he can move at insane speeds. And as has been alluded to by Angelus, when he speeds up, the world for him slows down. It's all relative. So he can basically decide what he wants to do. He's got all the time in the world to decide what he wants to do, move to the position where he needs to make that happen, and then enact it in the blink of an eye. But the thing about this Sandevistan cyberware is that it drives you insane very, very quickly. It drives the average person insane very, very quickly. For some reason, David is highly resistant to the negative effects of this cyberware. They said that if you activate it 2 or 3 times in one day, it will drive you crazy. It will cause you to undergo cyberpsychosis, which is basically you go crazy and start killing everything in sight. He runs it 8 times in one day. It knocks him around, but it doesn't drive him insane. So Arasaka find out about this and they go, well, this guy's interesting. We need him to test some rather dodgy cyberware of our own that we want him to. We need somebody to test who's as resistant as this guy is. So they start trying to hunt him down. He actually has a fight with the son of an Arasaka executive, and that's how they discover that he's A, using the Sandevistan, and B, resistant to it. So they start looking for him. He ends up bumping into a net runner. Well, she's a net runner, but she also has physical abilities. Name of Lucy. She's on a train.
One thing.
Yeah.
When you mean physical abilities, you mean physical abilities?
Well, she has this sort of neon ropey thing, which really reminded me of the weapon from I mentioned the movie earlier. Oh God, what has he written there? My mum died, so I got
a jar.
I got
Jack
a
Sparrow
jar.
quoting.
Now, you might think from the way Giancarlo's going on and how I'm describing this that this is a somewhat shallow movie. It is shallow show. It's definitely not. There's a lot of emotion in it.
It's like fucked up to the square root.
You can ask me.
And then, like I told you, never say you're screaming when you're drugging yourself because it gets worse.
Yeah.
And I thought the first episode was bad. It just got worse after that.
That was just giving you a taste.
For Robert,
I should have taken that as a hint.
Yeah, you really should have. For Robert, it's worse. For everyone else, it's like, good, hard-hitting, emotional storytelling.
You know what Death of Night City we suffer more, and I think that Angelus and I suffered that one more. Jackie Wellens. That one we didn't want it to die, which it was their merge partner. But I mean, other than that, that's what Night City gives you. Is like everybody's out to get you, and you better look over your shoulder even when you're sleeping.
So what you're trying to tell me is that episode 10 for me is basically the death of Jack for you guys.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy. Like they go into the fights like freaking Rambo and Cowboy, like in the middle. When I go into a fight, if I'm fighting a crew, you see me just holding ass out of there and shooting from far away. Like I'm not gonna go Rambo and shit because they're gonna hurt me. So I run far away and they start no, like these people are like freaking flashing blaze of guns and fires. That's what they call it.
I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077, but I've played a lot of other games that have similar sort of options for setting up your character, and I usually go for the sniper. I have the biggest, baddest, nastiest sniper rifle, and I kill people before they see me. So I don't have to deal with that punchy shit.
When you're customizing them, do you put nipples on them or not?
The games that I play haven't had that option. I'll look forward to it.
Since Cyberpunk has use for nipples and for genitals, you can have a guy that has a girl's part too, whatever.
I'm gonna create one like a Ken doll with no genitals.
You can do it. Still has a butt.
To give the listeners some context, if they're not, deep into Cyberpunk sort of aesthetic, basically your characters are spending their time replacing their body parts with cybernetics to the point where their bodies no longer particularly resemble like a human fleshy torso, and you can basically take all the bits off. Like, I'm not going to use that. Let's get rid of it. It's a weakness. So you can take the bits off. Now, you might then think, oh, but what if you want to get physical with somebody? We don't bother getting physical. You just jack into a virtual space together and do the deed in there with a virtual body, which can be whatever you want it to be. And you feel all of the feelings that you would feel if you were doing it for real in the physical world. So basically, your body doesn't need to be a biological human anymore. It can be whatever you need it to be. And if you want to do the biological human stuff, you just go into a virtual space and do it there. So
Lil
Cake
Dano,
and
man,
Eat It too.
Missed out. Lil Dano missed out on that.
Yeah, Cake and Eat It too, basically. So where was I? David discovers this piece of technology that his mother had ripped out of somebody called the Sandevistan. It's a thing that connects to your spine and gives you super speed, but it takes a toll on your brain pretty damn hard. And most people, if they activate it more than twice a day, get cyberpsychosis pretty damn quickly. But for some reason, not David. So he bumps into this woman named Lucy, who is nicking chips out of people's chip jacks on a train. Basically, everybody has these little sockets in their neck, which you put chips into, and it interfaces with your brain and gives you knowledge or skills or whatever the hell you need to know. like sat nav and all sorts of other things that it can give you straight into your brain. You usually have cyber eyes, so you can see inside your eyeballs a projection of what
Did
the
you know?
information is coming off these chips.
Did you know, Ray, that usually people have 2 ports, but you can upgrade yourself to have up to 4 ports for cyber chips in the back of your neck?
So basically, what Lucy is doing is she's hacking these people on the fly using the equivalent at that stage of Wi-Fi, making the chips eject out of the ports. And how David meets her is that she actually hacks him and pops a chip out of his neck, and he spots her doing it, and he activates the Sandevistan and grabs her hand. And nobody has ever been able to stop her before. So she's like, you're interesting. So she basically agrees to work with him. They start working on this together. She's popping the chips and he's activating the Sandevistan and grabbing them so fast that nobody can see him do it. And they work together for a while. Then she takes him back to her place, and they hook into a virtual reconstruction of the moon's surface because she wants to go to the moon for some reason. I never actually could understand quite why, but that was her goal, to get to the moon. Kind of reminded me of Hugo wanting to get to Zalem in Alita Battle Angel. That whole, well, I just want to get the hell out of here to somewhere better. And that's kind of like the vibe that I was getting from Lucy. So he's like, oh, this chick's pretty cute and she's willing to work with me, and now she's sharing her deep desires with me, and then they come out of this thing, and there's a bunch of Edgerunners standing there, and the leader of the Edgerunners has this massive solos are the sort of the tough gunslingers and physical dudes. So the description of a cyborg that's
kind of the bar where Alita goes,
built for that. Yeah. And he basically says, give me my cyberware, you little bitch. And he goes, you sold me out, Lucy. And she's like, and she basically recognized that he had the cyberware that her group's leader was supposed to get, and basically fooled him into coming there. And then they were going to just kill him and rip this thing out of him.
Cyberpunk.
But he basically talks them around, saying, look, if you slotted this thing, it would fuck you up pretty quickly, but I'm resistant to it. So how about you just let me work with you, and you'll get the best of both worlds. And he basically convinces the guy called Maine. He's the
main guy.
It's Maine spelt the same way as the state. So I suspect he's from the state of Maine.
Yeah.
And that's where he got the name from. So they're all expecting David to come up with an Edgerunner moniker, and he just goes with David because he's a bit boring.
He's not just stronger. He's not faster. He's also stronger.
Yeah. But his body, it makes him stronger, but his body is still mostly organic. So, like, it will give him extra strength, but it will also break his bones.
What they get at the last episode, probably he would have needed to combine it with, not to break it.
But it's highly recommended that he starts swapping out biological components for like cybernetic arms and stuff like that, because it's going
I identify myself like the way that he acts. I would have done the same. Like, I would just burn myself to the crisp and just fuck it.
But the whole thing about cyberpsychosis is, so the listeners may not understand this, is the cyberpsychosis is basically you replace so much of your body with technology that your brain, you stop being human.
They showed this and explain it on a movie from Keanu Reeves that he loses his whole family, and they try to transplant the human mind into a robot. And basically they call that the reptilian part of the brain, when it's trying to look for all those functions that you don't do consciously, like your organs moving. When you put that on a robot, you're going to go in psychosis because your brain is trying to act like it's in an organic body, but there's no lungs for it to feed and make move, or a heart to make it pump. So it's trying to still look for that function, and it makes you go crazy because of that. That's what they explain on that. I don't know if you guys see that movie from Keanu Reeves. He's like a scientist, and he clones his family because he all dies on a car accident. but they were transplanting the mind, and they call that the reptilian part of the brain trying to behave on a mechanical body. It doesn't adapt.
Is that replicas?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, replicas. Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's one description. The other one is basically that the more of your physical body that you replace, the more of your humanity you're losing, and you eventually stop being human, and become an insane mechanical construct.
My friend says that because Alita still has an organic brain, it doesn't matter how mechanical she is, right? Paradox.
Well, Alita has, at least in the manga, Alita has a special situation.
Oh, you're gonna make a special situation.
No. I think I know. I think I know where Ray is coming from. It's definitely a different situation for Alita.
Yeah. Alita is a brain with, and that's it, in a mechanical body, in a suit.
Well, she was trained in Mars, right?
That doesn't make it any less not human.
If you go with the movie version, yes. If you look into the manga, and I highly recommend that anybody who likes Alita Battle Angel read the manga, it's different, and it's also freaky and very cyberpunk.
But
so
she's still
just leave it at that. I won't spoil Mars Chronicle, but you need to read Mars Chronicle to find out.
But she's still a brain on a suit, just like what will happen, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
it makes sense. She doesn't remember things. She has trauma, so it translates to.
Well, I have to give you guys some context of where I'm coming from, because I played the original Cyberpunk 2020 game back in the 90s, where you know,
mean
2020
2 years ago?
It feels like it. But back in the late 80s, they came up with a game called Cyberpunk 2020, and it was 30 odd years away, 2020, and they thought, technology will improve, like we'll get to this by 2020. 2020 will do as a target time for this to happen. Of course, it didn't, because it's now 2022, and cyberware isn't a big thing. There are cybernetic implants, basically. I'm wearing one right now, and I'll go into that later. But you basically, when you're telling a sci-fi story, you set a period when you create it that is far enough away that you think this might happen. But time marches on. So we had Cyberpunk 2020, then we had Cyberpunk 2044, now we have Cyberpunk 2077. They're getting smarter about this. They're moving it further into the future so that they've got a bigger lag to have the story being told. So I played the original game, very much like this. There was a scene where I was playing a solo, and I had a gunfight in a car. So, like, there's a guy sitting behind a steering wheel, I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and we're having a gunfight with submachine guns. And it was like, and we're dodging it, and the footwell of the car got filled up with cases, ammunition cases. It was a great fun game. The storytelling in Cyberpunk is really fun, especially if you're one of those optimizing kind of people, like vaguely scientific and optimizer. You're trying to find the best set of cyberware that will enable you to function within this world and give you the most options to survive. And if you think like that, you can really enjoy games like Cyberpunk 2077. And it sounds like you guys all kind of think that way when you're playing, that you optimize it for the way you want to play. And you can do that for the tabletop role-playing game as well. But I experienced that back in the 90s. So I've got quite a good understanding of how the cyberpunk milieu within this sort of world works. And also, I used to run a game called Shadowrun, which is basically cyberpunk with magic.
You used to run a game? What?
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Well, it's another tabletop role-playing game, which was sort of a competitor to Cyberpunk 2020, which is called Shadowrun.
Giancarlo is not that familiar with tabletops. I tried to get him into D&D. He has his knowledge is from D&D.
I stayed 5 days laying down on a cave because they didn't know how to make the right question.
Well, Giancarlo, imagine if you didn't own a computer and you still wanted to play Cyberpunk 2077, right? How would you do it? You would have books with all how the mechanics works and the backgrounds and everything, and then you'd write up your character on a piece of paper with all the data that the computer would use, but you'd have it written down. And then you would do all the dice rolling, which would be the random number generating that the computer would do within the game. You would do that on a table with dice, and you wouldn't see what was happening on the screen. You would have to imagine it. You know that.
I did that with
basically
Pokemon.
A tabletop role playing game. That's what
Pokemon
they turned
in
into
like 2000s. I used to do that. And like it was just a small group of friends because we were considered nerds for doing it. We didn't care. But when we do Pokemon, we will have our Pokemon's sheet with the stats and levels. Depending on the fight, we'll put experience and everything. We will have to like a map on the backyard of the school. So we'll do it in recess, and you will see us like 3 or 4 guys just doing like where the little thing of Pokemon like walking, and they're like, "Oh, you got a Pokemon fight," and stuff like that. So I did that.
So basically, you were doing Pokemon Go before Pokemon Go was a thing.
Yes. Yeah, well, it would be. We would do like a single player thing, so it's like somebody would actually like be your game master, and then I will be your game master, so you can actually play.
That's
we will do fights between each other, like, oh, my Pokemon attacks you with this and that, you know.
So then you get a book and hit someone over the head.
Pretty much.
Anyway, that's my context for this. So I had a pretty good idea of how it worked. So getting back to the plot, eventually we'll get through this. But anyway, Maine decides to let David join the crew. I think that in the background, Lucy was going into bat for him because she liked him and wanted him to join them. David was still quite angry with Lucy, so they were keeping at sort of arm's distance for a while there. But he basically comes on as the apprentice to Maine, and they use his speed to basically, pull chips out of Arasaka executives' necks at a bar and hack them and then put them back again. There's one scene there where Rebecca, who is this short, completely manic gunslinger, who has these crazy red and green eyes, but she's like she's probably about 4.5 feet tall, but her attitude's about 12 foot high. she's got this huge personality, you might say, but she's a lot of fun. I quite like Rebecca, and later on in the show, she gets these massive cybernetic hands, and she runs around with these massive guns. She's a tiny little girl with these massive hands and massive guns, running around blasting away, but being completely manic with them. But when they're on downtime and they're hanging out at this sort of, it kind of reminded me of those roller skate cafes where you sort of park your car and they roller skate out and give you your food and take your orders and give you your food and stuff.
Sonic, yeah.
So, but she would sit on her hands, make them like a seat and sit on them while she's talking to them.
And what were her hands?
They were just really big cybernetic hands. They might have been the old ones from her brother, actually. I'm not entirely sure. But her brother's in the crew. He's a techie. And there's another hacker named Kiwi. And there's a driver who shows up every now and again. But it's a really good progression that David goes through, learning the ropes from these guys and learning how to be an edge runner. And the next few episodes is him learning how to be an edge runner and getting to be part of this crew, and they start trusting him and so forth and so on. And he starts getting the money together to get new cybernetics, and Lucy's training him. So she basically says it doesn't matter what you're doing, you need stamina and strength and physical abilities. So she takes him jogging, and he's talking to her, and he gets over the whole Lucy, you betrayed me kind of thing, because they didn't really know each other particularly well at that stage. And he starts falling for her, but he's not sure how she feels for him. And then he's sitting there talking to Maine at one point, and he goes, "So are you treating Lucy well?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "What do you mean? Are you two together?" And he's like, "No." And it's like, "What?" Because everybody can see that Lucy likes him and he likes her, but they haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
And so he takes that as a green light, and basically he's a virgin, so he doesn't quite know what he's doing, but he basically very carefully sort of approaches her, and she just goes, "Oh fuck this," grabs him, kisses him, and they become an item. And we don't actually find out the depths of her love for him until much later in the series. It actually turns out that she's protecting him from Arasaka. Every time they come looking for him, she's sending them off on wild goose chases and deleting the data that Arasaka has on him, because they want him to test this thing called the cyberskeleton, which is some
Hyperscum,
like Frankensteinian cybernetic device.
That thing's spooky.
It is. It has gravitational emitters on it and massive arms, like gorilla arms, and it's got fly thrusters and all this sort of weird shit. But apparently it's even worse than the Sandevistan at fucking your brain up. So they need somebody who's really resistant to cyberpsychosis to test the thing. So that's why
the idea is they should do somebody crazy already, so they know how to deal with the craziness, right?
Yeah, maybe that too.
But they get somebody.
So anyway, the story progresses. It's pretty rough. I was going to tell you that there was a time where Rebecca sort of has a bit of a crush on David because he keeps saving her. There's one time where she gets kidnapped by a gang. And when I say gang, there was like 50 of them, and they had heavy weapons and machine guns and shit. And the Edgerunners go into negotiate to get her back, and basically it's a trap. But David uses his super speed. She's locked in a safe, and they open the safe, and she's tied up in there. And he basically uses his super speed to zoom in, grab her, zoom out, and they no longer have a hostage. So then a gunfight ensues, and there's many heads exploding. So this is a pretty bloody show. There's
and
I think the warnings on it are blood, gore, sexual representation,
and anti-Disney endings.
No Disney endings. That was
Disney
the one
ending.
that really
No.
hurt.
But you know, if you think about it, if you're a Cyberpunk fan, this should be a given, because you don't have Cyberpunk if you don't have a plain disregard not only for human limbs but for human life, and that is a given in every Cyberpunk property that you would watch. How life doesn't really have a meaning.
It doesn't have a value.
Yeah.
Especially if life, if the standard thing is to replace life with technology. Oh dear. You're a strange boy.
I have a lot of memes, originals.
So things progress as you would expect them to. Eventually, people start dying. Rebecca's brother gets killed by a solo undergoing cyberpsychosis. He was being a dick to him, so he kind of deserved it.
What's the name of the big guy, the bad guy, that is a legend, the Orbit legend, that kills him?
Adam Smasher.
Adam Smasher. Like, he's a telltale of that. Like he actually tells somebody else that he's talking to, like, oh, they're gonna be our pawns, and they are actually like guinea pigs for this new text. So I mean, this guy's gonna go crazy. We know that. So
Yeah.
they know they're expendable, and that's the problem with the new tech.
Everybody's expendable, especially Edgerunners.
Yeah.
Edgerunners aren't. They aren't connected specifically to a corporation, so the corporation doesn't consider them corporate property. They will protect corporate property,
But
biological.
they are
as
the
well.
last link of the chain, if you may call it something. So they are the guy that goes down to business down there, face to face.
Expendable assets.
The biggest risk.
What does the government call it? Plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability shit.
But Gloria wanted David to be a corporate suit.
She did. She wanted him to climb the corporate ladder. I'm not entirely sure why.
It's fucked up. I mean, spoilers for game, but even when you start as a corporal, they kick you out of the corporal in the next couple of minutes before you start the game.
Look at Faraday.
I thought I was corporal.
Look at Faraday, which, by the way, that is Giancarlo Esposito, by the way.
What? Giancarlo
Faraday.
Esposito? Oh, yes.
So Faraday is one of a number of fixers. Fixers are people that work, are the interface between the Edgerunners and the corporations, and they basically set up the jobs. Although Faraday has got it into his head that he wants to become an Arasaka suit. So he is attempting to get in there, but he's playing one against the other. So he's playing a corp called Militech up against Arasaka, but he's actually working for both of them, but he is working to get into Arasaka. So he's going to double cross Militech to get into Arasaka, and that's the story that he's pushing, and he's basically going to sell out all the Edgerunners to do it. But as I was saying, Maine ends up going into cyberpsychosis, and because he's got too much cyberware on board, and he actually kills at least one of his crew.
The worst thing is his partner, which makes it more like,
his lover,
a lot sadder of a situation.
Yeah, he kills his lover, who's also on the crew. And did Max Tech show up at that in that one? I think it did. I think Max Tech was.
Yes.
They tend to end up finishing these things off fairly regularly. So he dies, and the crew's pretty badly shaken. But David steps up. He ends up basically replacing most of his body with cyberware because he can, because he'd earned enough eddies to do it. And there's a bit of a time skip, and we find David running the crew with Kiwi, and that all went down around the time that they were trying to hack the father of the kid that he had a fight with before he got kicked out of the academy. And they end up abducting the guy, and they're trying to get information out of him about Arasaka's movements and the stuff that they're doing. And Lucy is the one doing the hacking, and Lucy tells them that there was no information in there, but the information that was in there was actually about David. And how they wanted to capture David and use him to test the cyber skeleton. So she actually deletes the information and said there wasn't any, and they end up Maine ends up carrying this guy around chained to his front when the corpse attack, and then Max Tack shows up, and that's when he dies. So there's all this sort of multi-level informational war going on, as well as the physical side of things, which makes it really interesting, because depending on what you like, there's a bit of something in here for all sorts of tech junkies. And it actually reminded me of another show that's on Netflix at the moment called Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2044. Yeah, SAC 2044, which I also enjoy. It's also cyberpunk, and anybody who knows the now not so recent movie about Ghost in the Shell, yes, it's the same story with many of the same characters, but it's an anime version, which has a lot more stuff going on in it, but it's after what happens in the movie versions. And there is this multi-level informational war going on at the same time as the physical operatives are doing their thing as well. So it's really interesting. And I got to say that the aesthetic within this show is really on point, from the way they talk and the way that they analyze things and the things that they do is peak cyberpunk. It is really, really engrossing if you're into cyberpunk. So I really highly recommend this show to people who love cyberpunk. And of course, we're talking about episode 10 here, which is the culmination of this story, where David is basically manipulated into slotting the cyber skeleton. They end up intercepting a convoy which is carrying it, and it takes a lot of work, but they manage to get rid of the guards for that. And the truck crashes nose first into a small canyon, and they climb down inside it. And Lucy's been staying away from their missions because she's trying to hack into Arasaka and delete all of the information on David. She really, really loves him and wants to keep him safe, and he's missing her being with them. So they're living together, but they're not working together anymore. She's off sitting in a bath of ice to keep her body cool enough, because when you hack into large corporations and you've got to work really hard to break through their ice, which is their protective barriers and stuff like that, it heats the body up really high because your brain's working at such a high level. It produces a lot of heat, and you've got to actually line a bathtub of ice to stop yourself from overheating and shutting down. But she's doing that on the side, not telling him what she's doing, and he feels like she's not interested in him anymore. And they actually, the last thing they physically talk about before he goes off for this last mission is he says, I think maybe we should break up because this isn't working anymore. And she's like, look, just don't do that. I've just got to finish this and then I'll be back.
Into a fight that you could die for.
Yeah.
Let's freak
Put that on hold. I'm still here for you. I just got to do this thing. All right. This thing.
It's not you, it's me. That's what I hate the most, man. Hearing that shit.
But it's not even that. It's I'm doing this thing to save you, but I can't tell you I'm doing it.
Oh, you don't
I love you so much I can't tell you.
Now let me ask you this, because that's one of the things that's like I'm very big when it comes to stories, when it comes to that scenario. And that you see this in many different stories, many different movies. It doesn't have to be, all could be sci-fi, could be anything else. But where misunderstanding comes from lack of information or lack of, you're not telling your partner something.
Deliberately withholding
exactly.
knowledge that would make it understandable.
So in my personal life, at least myself, I like to think on the positive side that this would be something that is common knowledge and everybody would do it, but that's not always the case. I do not believe in withholding information from your partner, because not only is good to share in
saying
that
the truth, evading saying the truth, it's lying. People are like, "Oh, I didn't say a lie." Yeah, you evade saying the truth when you were asked a direct question. That's lying.
It's called the sin of omission.
Yeah, it's just like dissolving the question, not answering it.
So, like, it's not only help the relationship with the intimacy, but also helps you if this in fact is an issue, so you don't shoulder it by yourself.
Yeah,
you have someone maybe between the two of you. You have no idea. Maybe your partner would have the solution, or maybe you can come up with a solution between the two of you. However the case, I feel that as always is like in my rule book. However, I do understand her points in this episode. What do you guys think? If she had followed that advice, how would it change the story, and would it play into her fears, making them a reality faster? Because obviously she's trying to withhold it because she's trying to protect them.
Well, she also had the situation that she originally was an Arasaka operative that had been, manipulated and augmented from a very young age to be an Arasaka devotee, and she managed to escape. And she knew what they were like. So she knew that they would never stop until they got a hold of him. And she loved him deeply. So she wanted to protect him. And she says to him that he's the sort of guy who will go and try and save people that he cares about. Doesn't matter what threat there is to his life. He will, like, he goes to save her against the guy who killed Rebecca's brother. He tries to save Maine when he's undergoing cyberpsychosis, and Max Tacker coming after him. He says he's going to stand there shoulder to shoulder with him and try and save him, which he can't do. There's just too many of them. They would both die. And he basically has used I can't even say that properly. Sevezistan to escape. But basically, if Lucy had told him what she was doing, he would want to physically go in there and stop her from doing that and do it himself to save her. But she was the one who wanted to save him, and that's why she wouldn't tell him what she was doing. Because he would then try and get involved, and she knew, because she was ex-Arasaka, that would get him dead.
She made her decision long before he did.
Yeah.
With that particular aspect too, it's almost reminiscent of Hitman 47, because they were like Hitman 47, like the guys there were genetically enhanced, trained, etc. And they were also, like, as kids, taken and trained and basically taken advantage of. And in Lucy's situation, it's very much almost mirror with Arasaka being the corporation that basically kidnapped the kids and essentially kept on using them until they were no longer of use. As you saw, because they started dying off, they started falling to the rogue AIs in the dark web, so to speak.
Yeah.
The dark web. Red rooms.
Yeah, I just had to add that question because that was something that really bugged me. And I guess I borrow that from my personal life.
Well, people get it into their head when they're making decisions without consultation that this is the best way to do things, and they basically lock people out because they think they have to deal with it, and they feel like if the other person gets involved, it's all going to go to hell. So I just won't tell them. So it's quite understandable.
It's like I'm taking away from you the opportunity to have a say on it.
Well, she cares about him so much that she wants to protect him, and she knows that if he gets involved, he's going to die.
That's a justification.
Arasaka. So she takes it onto herself that she's got to protect him.
Yeah, but I mean, the context of that in good linguistics, that's just her justification for her course of action. At the end of the day, I'm not villainizing her. I've done that in the past, actually. But I mean, we just find a justification for taking the handle on what's going to happen and take the word or the choice from somebody else.
Yeah. So you can imagine this being Cyberpunk, and they're going up against two massive corporations, not one of which is called Militech. So you can imagine what they build: missile carriers, hover tanks,
special gigs for body modifications too.
All sorts of big bada boom. So basically, in episode 10, which is the one we're supposed to be talking about, but I've got to it now. they basically send a battalion. Militech sends a battalion out to attack the
Hence, they
truck.
were having hassle with 4 trucks.
Yeah.
And then they said Armada, like the fucking
A
Horizon
battalion.
covering trucks. I was like,
So
what
it's a
the
battalion of trucks with guys with lots of cyber-wearing guns. There's missile launcher trucks. There's hover tanks with whatever size rail guns they had on them. And they're all bearing down on this small group of Edgerunners and the truck with the really, really bad tech, really nasty.
In a nutshell, overkill.
Cyber skeleton. So feeling that he's been backed into a corner, has no other choice, David slots the cyber skeleton, which basically he takes off his legs and arms, and he's just a torso inside of this thing and hooks into it. And the whole truck is a implantation system. So it puts him into this thing. And of course, he's been fighting against cyberpsychosis this entire time because the Sandevistan's finally catching up with him. Just one second. Okay. Sorry, that was my wife just popped in the door there. So he knows that Lucy's been captured by Arasaka, and they're using her against him as well. In fact, now Faraday actually pretends to be her. He jacks in through her to make a call to him to convince him to slot the
cyber skeleton.
Thank you, cyber skeleton. And he's also running out of immunosuppressants. So once the immunosuppressants that he's using during this battle run out, he will go into full-on cyberpsychosis mode, and he will no longer be a human. And
he's going to go
able to fight anybody. Yes, completely cuckoo. So he decides, well, before that happens, I've got to rescue Lucy. So he basically takes on the entire Militech battalion, destroys them, because this thing's got gravitational manipulators on it, plus thrusters so it can fly. It's got these 2 massive ape arms, and it can basically pull all the weapons from the enemies around you to itself and then use them against them. So he does that a few times. And he wipes out this huge battalion of guys and equipment, and then they take off in their little Edgerunner vehicle, which is souped up and unarmored and all this sort of stuff. And they basically go into the Arasaka Tower in the middle of Night City, which is across the plaza from the Militech Tower, as it turns out. So they rock up there, and bad stuff happens. He basically crushes the hell out of Faraday. Faraday gets his just desserts. Kiwi, who was the other net runner within their group, actually was a double agent and was working with Faraday against David. But then Faraday turns on her. She basically sends some information to David and his crew before she dies, saying she's sorry, basically.
Go without me.
Yeah, go on with that. And then they rock up to rescue Lucy. They manage to get her out, but then Atom Smasher, who is a legendary cyborg who's been employed by Arasaka, rocks up and lays waste to pretty much everybody.
Smashes them all.
Yes, as his name implies. And it's very, very reminiscent ending to another movie that we did recently, also recommended by Angelus, called Upgrade, where there's an ending and people go on, but the what they've lost seems too significant to consider it
happy ending.
So as it says here, David tasks Falco, he was the driver, with getting Lucy to safety while staying behind to hold off Atom Smasher. Despite having the skeleton, David is no match for the more experienced Atom Smasher, but he dies content with the knowledge that Lucy is safe and has no regrets. Sometime later, Lucy fulfills her dream of traveling to the moon, but is despondent that David is not there with her. So Lucy survives, and everyone else gets atom smashed.
And I couldn't get off of my couch.
Mm.
No, Robert look at the moon. Robert look at the moon once a month and thinks of Lucy. Poor Lucy, don't. Well, Angelus and I know what's on the moon actually because we finished the game, right, Angelus?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's something on the moon. Is it a monolith?
Well, it's a space station.
And monkeys.
It's a space station actually that Arasaka has.
Bloody
That's where you go.
Arasaka.
Yeah, that's where you go when you finish the game.
I think the game's been out. The game's been out long enough that it's not like, I mean, it is technically
If it's a spoiler,
definitely.
you don't want to play it right now, right?
But the adventure of getting to that ending is what I won't be spoiling. But essentially, actually, Gio, is it a casino of some sort, or is it the actual?
It's like a
Like
research lab
storage
actually. Like he's in
lab?
a
Yeah.
like a room that has everything in it. It's like exercising, sleeping, and he can see the outer space. And basically, they're gonna keep him there because they don't know how to fix the relic from taking over him, but they don't know what rate's gonna happen. So they keep him there. Like they have a lot of subjects in different cases that they are working on fixing it eventually, so they can make these technologies more friendly to the user. Oh, can you see me? Okay.
Yep.
So they can make it more friendly to the user. But basically, they told them we're not gonna be able to let you go. So do whatever you need to, and then that's the last mission you do. Then you go do whatever you need to, and once you walk into Arasaka, they take in, they do that the little movie, but then you finish the game and you don't know if you become Johnny or not.
It was more the other ending, in space, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
You mean you don't know the secret ending?
I mean, no, I did that one that I get to go and see the people that are dead with the relic technology. Like you get to talk to Jackie and stuff like that, but then you notice like they're like repeated answering machines. Like
No.
they have.
Essentially, V becomes the, I guess, king of Afterlife, and he basically makes it his personal vendetta of, like, not only destroying Mikoshi, but destroying the station where all the souls are stored.
Sure, man. Yeah, and
So
actually
he quite literally goes up into space.
Arasaka head is in a relic, just like Johnny. He's out there.
Yeah, so essentially that ending is where he goes up into space. And, well, let's just say you see the space station where all the engrams are stored, all the souls.
Yes, I saw this. This was the first ending that I did. The second ending that I did is the one I'm telling you. Yes. Oh yeah.
But I'm a stan of Pan Am, so I always go the older color route. And after what happens in this series, after what happens in episode 10, well, let's just say, choosing the older color ending gives an extra special satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because,
true.
You know what? I'm just going to come out and say it, because in the end, Adam Smasher gets Adam smashed.
Yep. And I mean, I actually got to do that in both endings.
And like you can come up with new, essentially after the big boss fight, so to speak. He's essentially
it's not difficult to kill.
He is.
You think it is? I think it's just repetition, but like he's not difficult. You just gotta keep your distance. You can follow the sequence.
Well, it depends on how you build it, but essentially, once he's defeated in game, he's disabled, kneeling of sorts. Either that, or he's just got no legs and he's just sitting on his torso. But you can either turn around and walk away and let him live, or you can just,
I always kill him.
like one more hit, of anything, a gun, a punch, or whatever, and he's dead.
Yeah, I
So
always beat that motherfucker. I never walk away from that.
if you didn't like Adam Smasher after the end of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, then and you want like a bit, oh, excuse me, and you want a bit of revenge, then play the game and
Yeah.
choose all the cards because like essentially you can one of my personal favorites is you can have similar to what Adam Smasher has, you can have like inbuilt rocket, like a mini rocket launcher, like built into the arm.
Oh,
Pops
I
up.
never put that.
I
But I
do.
always use this or the gorilla arm or the blade. Bless you. The gorilla arms or the blade arms. I always use. I like
They
the
are fun.
gorilla arms because they are good for punching. Like you can kill a person with a punch with the gorilla arms, but the blades are useful too.
Yeah. So coming full circle, like I said, if you like to see, if you've seen this episode of Science Fiction Remnant and Cyberpunk Edgerun, it seems like your kind of jam, and you watch it and you like it, I definitely encourage you to play the game. And if you already played the game and you're hearing this episode for the first time, then I encourage you to watch the anime because
We need to make an episode on the game.
it's such a cohesive relationship between the two mediums, if you will, that one sort of feeds off the other and vice versa. It's
Robert,
definitely.
Angelus is not picking this one. I'm picking it, but it's not gonna be for the next one because it's a big endeavor. We have to do one in the show, on the movie, on the game, and
Yes.
Angelus has to be on it.
Yes,
guys, I'm going to have to bounce. I've got a situation occurring here, so I've said plenty, so I'll leave the rest to you. But yeah, I highly recommend this. I just wanted to mention that Jonathan Wilson wrote in Ready Steady Cut that in many ways this is the Cyberpunk story that the Cyberpunk game wanted to tell but couldn't. So that it's highly apprecited. It's got 8.8 out of 10. And 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's pretty high. It's well worth the watch. But I got to bounce, so I'll leave you guys to finish up. Catch you later.
All right, catch you later in Discord, man.
Yeah, Max Tack.
Get
those.
I got to go and get a certain cyborg that's gone cyberpsychosis. So I'll see you later.
Try not to kill it.
Take care.
Bye.
So I gotta ask because I find this, and I play the game. I love the game. The show is amazing, and I just want to preface what I'm going to say with saying that this is an amazing show.
Oh yes.
If you like sci-fi, if you like cyberpunk, especially, you have to watch it.
If you like Cyberpunk the game and it left you wanting more, this show is going to fulfill a little bit of that.
Exactly. And one thing that I can tell you is after I watched this, I had the urge to turn on my PlayStation and play the game.
Man, it's just like watching porn and wanting to be with a girlfriend right after.
Oh God. I'm sorry, Angelus. You know how it is. It's Captain Chaos.
It's what we love about Geo the most, I guess.
So the question that I was going to ask is, I find this episode, the last episode, very, very hard.
It's dramatic.
Yeah, to the point of being slightly traumatic. What? And I guess we could go round robin. Angelus, you can go first, or Gio could go first. But what can you say that you like the most about this specific episode? And we can go either, whichever of you who wants to start first is fine.
It's short for me. Epic fight. That's what that episode was all about. By then, you were detached emotionally of everybody. Everybody's going to fucking hell. They're gonna make shit of them, but it's gonna be epic. And that means they do it. It's
I
just
should
like fucking going to the gods against the gods of Asgard. It's just
and
epic.
I should expect it because I watch enough Cyberpunk. I like Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I love Cyberpunk. So I should have expected, and as a matter of fact, I did expect it. However, I took it hard. So I wonder if this speaks to the power of the writing team. It's that I don't know. I couldn't tell you why this hit me harder than any other Cyberpunk. I mean, look, for example, we did Alter Carbon. We did an episode in season 1. You should go ahead and listen up if you want to get the full details. But um, I like that show.
Yeah, but they don't wipe clean the cast on Alter Carbon.
There were parts traumatic. There were parts that were traumatic about the show, but I didn't. It didn't hit me as hard as this one did. And I know Cyberpunk.
For me, Alter Carbon sugarcoat things. Cyberpunk is like there's no sugar baby here. It's raw.
Yeah, Cyberpunk shouldn't have any sugar, and if
no.
it has, it's not Cyberpunk.
No, they're very raw. Now tell us, Angelus.
Well, my answer to your question sort of can feed back into yours. What I love about the show the most is that, like, yes, in the game you've got the main character of V, but in this one you've got the main character of me. Or sorry, I mean David. And and I felt that focusing on other characters and giving these other characters more personality quirks and whatnot opens up the world just all that more.
Gives more life to the universe.
Yeah, and because you're already halfway sucked in, because you love Cyberpunk, because you love sci-fi, and you become emotionally invested, like, I am basing this off if you've seen one but not the other. But even if you haven't seen / played either property, like I said, being able to focus on different characters, different main characters, and being so emotionally invested in both, and feeling their struggle, like I said, just opens up the world all that more, and you get even more sucked in again and again and again, and it's like a black hole. You get sucked in and you can't escape it.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes it more such.
It's like something that you never saw before, and now it cannot be unseen.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing the game now, for example, you're gonna go and get somebody that has cyberpsychosis. You're thinking of David.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Before, to me, it was just nobody that it was crazy and he's killing everybody. Now, when I look at it, it's like, oh shit. It's like the rise and fall of somebody doing some new tech, and it's dangerous as hell. And it was the top at the time that they got it.
And an example of that is, it just left my mind. I'll probably end up thinking about it later. But yeah, so I guess to summarize my answer, like, because you love cyberpunk and sci-fi, you're already beginning to be drawn into that world. And of course, like you alluded to earlier, the sign of good writing is when you become emotionally invested in the characters, not just the main character, but all the NPCs or side characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the example too. And this also works on the reverse. Like you hate the bad guys even more. And the perfect example of that is Adam Smasher. Like when you're like initially, I always chose the Alder Calder route, as I mentioned earlier, because Pan Am is Bay for me, and like 9 times out of 10, I just kill Smasher anyway. But it only becomes. It was more of a side choice rather than like a something that I always do with conviction. But after watching Edgerunners, you know what?
You want to kill an asshole every time.
Yeah, you want to kill him over and over and over again, like even to the point of having a save point where you're looking right at him. You like, you cut him up with a katana. Load up the previous save. You want to blow him up with a rocket launcher. Load up a previous save, and so already, like I mentioned, you're getting sucked into the world because you love it. You become emotionally invested in the characters
That's where
altogether.
things go wrong. Don't get emotionally invested.
So obviously, the emotional impact's going to be hard as it is, but like it's almost like a 1-2 KO punch sort of thing, with the one being Edgerunners and the other one being the game, and I think that's what makes it that much more
Real.
yeah. Like the Edgerunners hits harder.
Yeah.
Like once you've experienced both, they both hit so exponentially harder than if you only ever watched a one.
Hmm. And I mean, you
So
feel like, oh, everybody wants to, like, you're a net runner in the game, so it's like everybody just expect me to go and put my ass on the line and maybe die for a couple of bucks,
Uh,
and it makes you more like non-trusted to the everybody, right? You were gonna say, Robert?
well, I was just gonna say I got very emotionally vested with David. Especially, if you follow this entire season from
There's
the
a full
beginning,
character development there. Of course,
it
you
you
feel it.
see everything that he has gone through, everything that he has lost, all how he was actually
How he's in this big
they
penthouse and he's
like
looking at his mom photo with him as a kid. That was
life
touching.
done him wrong
Yeah.
in the worst possible way, in every way, and it doesn't stop. And I kind of feel for him in a way that, you know, he deserves some sort of something good happened to him.
Man,
And then in this episode, we see him die.
the first episode, right after his mother died, he get the shit beat out by the fucking bully in the school. I was like, okay, this show is just gonna get
And he
nasty,
got kicked
all
out of his
kind of
house.
colors. He
He got
gets
kicked
beat.
out of his home. His
Yeah,
mother died. He got beat up. Yeah.
no
So,
filters.
um, as a cyberpunk story, I feel this is an amazing show because it helps you expand on the story, um, of the game. And one of the things that
Mhm.
I can point out is on the cyberpsychosis side, I feel this TV show puts you in a front row seat in understanding how does it feel like to have cyberpsychosis.
Yeah,
Um,
where
in
does it
the
come
end,
from?
in the end, we see a scene where David is having a cyberpsychosis, and they cut to a scene where he's visualizing himself walking in the streets of Santo Domingo, or talking to his mom, or recreating the scenes with the kid in school that beat him up. And this is really interesting to me because this is what David is seeing while he's having the cyberpsychosis.
Yeah, it felt like every time that he had an episode, he just blacked out of consciousness.
Well,
It's like somebody
in
else
his
took the wheel,
in his
and then he
body,
came back and
yeah,
he's like, shit.
exactly. But he's meant his consciousness is not, I don't want to say reliving. It's kind of like he's in those scenes again, because obviously he's reacting differently than how he reacted when those scenes actually happened earlier in the on this season. But what I like is we get to see this. We
Hmm.
get to see how does it feel like to have a cyberpsychosis, and to be honest with you, it's actually scary
Yeah.
because he's doing all these benign things uh, in his consciousness while his body is destroying and killing things.
The only next thing that I can think of is like somebody that have border personality disorder.
Mhm.
You know, like they're not seeing what's happening. They just blacked out of consciousness, came back, and a bunch of shit happened that they don't know that they did. So it's scary.
Like if we go earlier to earlier episodes in the season, one example that I can point out to this, which we don't get to see the inside of someone's experience while they're having a cyberpsychosis. At the time, we didn't. Is when Maine killed Dorio, and when he came to, he kind of, I can't remember the exact words, but he said, "Did I basically like to the point of did I do that?"
Yep. Like
And he
unbelievable.
killed his lover. It's something that you will not do consciously, you know. So that's what I'm saying is scary.
Yep.
And it makes you kind of like, well, I kind of understand it a little more earlier in
Kind
the
of like
episodes
the
when,
upgrade
yeah, exactly,
paradox, Angelus?
an upgrade,
Yeah,
yes,
it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of that. That's what happens. Like, well, it's different. In upgrade, there's an actual AI. In here, it's just animal ballistic, apex predator, full on.
yeah. So I guess I should move on to the next question, and maybe I should start with Geo, and then we can move on to Angelus. So the question is, the final question that we always ask in these episodes is, what is your final thought on, basically we're talking about the entire season, although we're concentrating on the last episode. Um, what is your final thought, Gio, on this episode slash
I love
season?
Cyberpunk, but to me, it's a scary future.
Yes.
It looks like I mean, it's scary. It's just scary to me. Like, I cannot imagine the living in a place where you don't know if turning on the corner actually you are gonna get shot for sure.
Yeah.
Because it looks like freaking Wild Wild West all over the place in Night City. Doesn't matter where you go. I mean, you have to be on corporate parks, so they're not gonna attack you because there's way bigger guns in there. But other than
Mhm.
that, everything else is ghetto, and everybody else is looking somebody to just rob them on any alley. So it's scary, man. Like, I don't imagine living a life where I had to get my guard up 100% all the time, looking over my shoulder. That
Even
that
while you
must be
sleep.
exhausting. Look at the
Even while
house.
you sleep.
His apartment. It's like a little fortress.
Hmm.
Like he's in this little slum, but when he goes inside, it's a totally different place.
Yeah.
So
Angelus, what?
yeah, I mean, and I mean,
Oh,
I love like modifications and everything, but that's something that I'm the person that likes to go for the secure thing. So I'll let all the people that want to be guinea pigs first to make sure that it works.
Angelus, what is your final thought on this episode slash season?
Actually, no. It's for those that have played the game, and I'm going to go on a slightly different tangent, then come back into it again. In World of Warcraft Burning Crusade, the main end raid boss for that is Illidan, and his like motto, caption, whatever you want to say, is "You are not prepared." And I felt the exact same way with this. Like, I thought that I knew what was going to happen. I knew that the show wasn't going to be pretty, not just in terms of the actual action, but like story and the depth. And like I said, I am attracted to stories in whatever medium. With the less plot armor, the better. But I was not prepared for how much of an impact it would have on me overall. You heard me say earlier where uh, you know, uh, if you watch Cyberpunk Edgerunners, makes you feel like you want to play the game. If you play the game, makes you want to watch Edgerunners to get more content. And then I talked about the emotional like cycle, if you will. Like if you've if you've watched the series then and you play the game, like you just you get sucked in just that little bit further.
To the character.
Yet again, you become all that much more emotionally invested. But as the example I gave before, I was not prepared in how much satisfaction I would get from killing Adam Smasher in game because of Edgerunners. Like I was already, emotionally invested in the character of V because obviously I played Cyberpunk the game first and then went to Edgerunners. And like I was already like sort of a little bit like you even, like a little bit sad about V's story, and it left me wanting more because I don't just want to struggle, but I wanted to fight as V to, until my very last breath. But then when I watched Edgerunners, it made that struggle all the more real and tangible, and like seeing David go through those struggles, seeing David go through the same fight and ended up losing it. It, like I said, because I already experienced what V did, it
Yeah,
made his
you
death
gotta
all
do
the
the same
more.
thing on a more humane way by letting Johnny Silverhand take over because he's somebody that you actually have got to know throughout the whole story. So it's not like an an animal's taking over and it's irrational, you know.
Yeah, and for me again, like I was not prepared in how much of a what they call a vicious cycle where it just keeps on getting more and more intense. The more revolutions you go through that cycle, because coming back to the game again, like going through the various endings, it made the entire journey of the game going through the replay all that much more impactful. And like while I haven't done it yet, I definitely do plan to. But when I rewatch the series again, I have no doubt that like even though I know I've seen it before, obviously because it's my second watch of the series, even though I know what's going to come, I know the ending, and I know what's going to happen, it's still going to hit me even harder than the first time because of that vicious cycle. So for me, I was not prepared for like what the show would do to me.
Even you, Angelus?
Yeah. Well, it's I believe it. I mean, I got impacted. I like to think I got impacted the most. But yeah, this is that kind of show. This is that kind of show. You're vested with these characters. You go all throughout 10 episodes with them, getting to know them, loving what they do, only to, have, and I felt that the rug pulled out under you with that ending. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, that maybe this is a sign of good writing, because I was very much emotionally vested into, to a certain degree, the other characters, but mainly on David,
And
which,
then Sinatra comes and says, "That's life. That's life."
okay.
Everybody did.
So
Everybody.
since Raid is not here, I guess I'm going to try to do his segment. So let's see how I do.
The science in sci-fi.
Okay, for this science and sci-fi, we have a lot that we can talk about. The obvious thing is the cyber the cyber
Cyber penis enlargement.
the organic and how they call it in the show,
Cyber penis enlargement.
chrome.
Yeah, Chrome.
Um,
Exoskeleton. Actually, if you want to call it.
Yeah, it goes. We have like implants into the body.
It's a nervous system enhancement, right, Angelus?
The Sandevistan in the
Yeah.
show, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so we have companies nowadays that are working um, towards
Neuralink.
something similar to that, but it's and you could see how if you could put it on a timeline, it is actually scary how um, you could see how this could turn to that,
And we're
and
using the
that's
bed
why.
crib.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're using the newborn crib of that frontier. We're just taking baby
Exactly.
steps. But
I
the
mean,
thing is that because of AI and self-learning machine, it's gonna be exponentially faster and faster. We did this in 50 years, and we're thousands of years ancient civilizations. In 50 years, imagine 100 years from here.
yeah. So, like, if we think about, let's go back to the basics. And I understand this would be a great benefit to humanity, where you have people that have accidents. You might lose a limb, and now you can get prosthetics to to um to help that. If it's someone that has lost their leg, they can walk again. Someone has lost their arm. You have prosthetics now that have fingers, and they can be trained to
And
use
for
those.
people that don't know how to aim to the toilet, they can actually get a mod that allows them to auto aim in the toilet, so they don't splash out.
So I see how maybe in the future, you have where this this technology would increase to the point where the what's the missing thing right now on those, let's call it cybernetic implants, or cybernetic enhancements for people that have gotten into accidents, or maybe they were born that way, is the fact that they don't have they can use it, but they don't have senses. So you can't feel, and I can see how you would have something like let's say Neuralink would come into place.
Yeah, basically.
Neuralink, you all should know what Neuralink is by now, but basically is a implant of a computer into your brain, to help you with certain things. So some of the things that um, the Neuralink company has mentioned that they could help, is with anything that has any illness that has to do with mental degeneration.
Like
You
epileptic attacks and stuff like that, you can actually prevent them.
Exactly. So if you put these two together, you could see how this is really not um, the stop for that technology. I mean, you're implanting a computer or computer chips into your brain, so it could be programmed, and in a future, I would say how it would be easy to have that as the gap between your organic and your biological organic components, and your robotic or cyber components, where now you have someone that maybe lost their legs, now they have a cybernetic leg installed, and they can now walk on the beach and feel the sand in between their toes.
But you cannot run in the Olympics because it will be illegal.
Well, it's we're talking about a cyberpunk reality here, so
Well,
I'm sure that, yeah.
Probably Olympics don't even exist by then,
we'll
right?
go one step. We'll go one step further, and I just did a quick Google search, so I know it's at least the concept is very 100% real. But let's take it to, I guess, the most extreme that we can think of in our time, and that's para and quadriplegics. Paraplegics, I forget the difference. All I remember is quadriplegics is when you lose complete leg loss, and for those
Quadriplegic is
that,
up to the neck, I think.
oh yes, correct, yeah. Paraplegic is like from the waist down or something, or you still have mobility in your arms. Quadriplegic is basically you're a head on a meat suit. But I know that they're definitely in the medical field. They're studying up and trying to develop ways of like restoring the electrical, like the nervous system, if you will,
Yeah.
because the spinal cord is pretty much the center of the central nervous system, ironically enough. And or wherever the break in the spinal cord may be, they might try to develop ways of bridging it. So instead of trying to go through the block, they'll just build a bridge over it and continue that way. Now, for those, and especially quadriplegics, those that have, I guess, know or have seen them, quite often you'll see them, they have really skinny and bony legs. And that's because they've just simply lost so much lean muscle mass because of non-use.
Mhm.
It happens. It happens to Stephen Hawking. It happened to him. Actually, they portrayed that beautifully on the movie Avatar: Pandora World.
Yep.
When the guy gets up the ship, you can see that his legs are very thin, and it's because those muscles are never used, so they go thinning out.
Yes, but even now, again, some elite athletes, instead of going through push-ups or sit-ups and etc., they'll attach electrodes to their various muscle parts, and every time they'll send an electrical impulse, it'll like make the muscles contract and
So people
twitch.
can skip leg day today.
So you go through the same. It's the same end result of having the muscle work, contract. Have a
And I'm
little bit
saying
of tear,
it's
repair.
a workout joke in the United States, at least, that like people skipping leg days. Like everybody wants to skip leg days, and then they do like a triangle, like Johnny Bravo, thick on top, and then like very thin on the legs.
Yeah.
So now they can
So
do it.
So yeah, and then of course you apply that to the spinal cords or spinal injuries, and they try to, you know, essentially reconnect uh, electrically the nervous system again, so you can
Yeah,
communicate with the rest of the body. So
I believe Neuralink is going to be able to do
like
that.
whether it be the Sandevistan, whether it be prosthetics, because even then, at the moment, I think the current level of technology is like the prosthetic arms, especially the mechanical or like
Yep.
motorized ones. They go off muscle memory. So every time that, like, obviously I'm clenching my fist now, like that's like an exaggerated version. Obviously, I can feel all the muscles in my arms like contracting. So if all this is robotic, then it'll simulate, like every time I'll clench my arm from like down the bottom, it'll make my fingers move and whatnot, like, or move the thumb and so forth. And yeah, so who's to say that in the next 20, 50 years they might have like a more direct connection
Yeah.
with
God knows
nervous
what we're
system
going to be.
of the arm. So
Well, there's something that I like to talk about, and we briefly talked about and earlier in this episode, the implants. You know, this happens a lot more with medical implants into the body. 100% of medical implants, they all cause an immune reaction. 35% of those require additional surgery to fix, and the other 65 still cause problems to the body where it's attacking the implant and the area around it. So if you think about in this show, in this, not necessarily in the show, but in the cyberpunk universe, this would be a prevalent issue, and why you need the medications that inject into you.
Mhm.
It's something that I was thinking. There are some research. I like to say in its infancy
Yeah.
about bio. You know,
Modifications,
no, it's bio.
enhancements.
No, it is bio implants. It's basically instead of having Chrome, having biological machines installed. Obviously, that's still. I like to think that's still into, um, in a very very infant. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we're into like doing surgery of skin or stuff like that. But I always wonder, and I wonder what your thought is. It's a limitation of the technology. Obviously, um, the humans, the humanity has a tendency that if you research something, you eventually will come up with a solution.
Yeah.
But
But we
knowing that,
understand that solution is not the absolute answer to that question. That's what we
yeah, but
understand. That's what science, spirit science, implies.
exactly, knowing that we have such an issue with medical implants, I always wonder why we don't research more into biological. And this the way that it is
We're
right now.
becoming with evolving society. We're becoming with our ethics are evolving, and the political correctness of things are actually deteriorating these processes that were placing before, like where most products that are for people, we test them on animals all the time before getting it on us. Now we don't do that, or like we actually don't condone that publicly. So people are like, "Oh no, this is animal abuse free," and that's a perk to acquiring a brand of whatever you're buying, being makeup or a self care product.
Yeah, but this technology is not there yet, and I think
Mhm.
by the time it gets there, there wouldn't it would not be necessary to test it on animals.
You and I probably would prefer our beer.
So what I wonder is like, I guess it's obvious technology we're not there yet. Um, but knowing this and the fact that medical implants, like 100% of them cause an immune reaction, I always wonder why we don't dedicate more research into bio. Uh,
Think about
I,
it. Like everything that Neuralink is doing is because Elon Musk is investing his own capital in most of these big projects to make it
mhm.
happen because nobody else would. Not even the government would fund them. You know. So it's like if he wasn't a millionaire on top of being a mad genius, it wouldn't happen.
But even that, even I wonder about that because that is a an implant into the brain,
Yeah.
and the human body is very good at attacking stuff that doesn't belong there.
Yep.
So it makes you wonder,
But they made
what
it in
is.
a way. They made it in a way that it's not gonna be painful or traumatic to extract.
No,
That's
that's
why I
not
was
what I'm
like,
saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the body will attack it. The body will attack it, and I wonder
it has none of us.
how much time you would have before you would have a second surgery, and what would be the impacts on the body from the constant attack to
I
the
would
area
think
of the implant.
I would
You
think
see?
little to none because of the nanobots. It actually, I mean, our body's smart, but it can be tricked with nanobots to think just like the RGN vaccine. It's not the virus, but it gives the message to your DNA on how to attack the actual virus.
Yeah, but you're going
So,
into the science fiction realm right there because we don't have nanobots yet.
uh, well, what would you call
You-
the RGN vaccine, for example? Where you are actually programming your DNA with it without putting the virus in your body.
Yeah, but
Aren't
Well,
you like
uh,
modifying your DNA to a molecular level and training it to act
right
according?
now in 2022, anything that you put in your body will attack it. Everything, 100%. And
Will
in
attack
some
it or
cases,
might take it as an ally.
it will attack it, guarantee. And The question is not if it's going to attack it or not, because we know it's going to attack it. The question is, what is the severity of the attack that will require a second surgery? And we see that in today's day in any medical implant on a body. So that's what I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I think the trick is what I call quality over quantity. Like most of these, as long as you come from a quality of life approach, which funnily enough is the term that they use for games as well. Like when you have quality of life mods, it's the mods that like sort of like improve the aesthetics of the games and your enjoyment of while you're playing it. With the medical advancement, I don't think they're trying to counteract the actual attacking itself, but reducing the severity that you alluded to, or reducing the impact of that attack to the rest of the body and to the implant itself, so that the required maintenance becomes less and less, and like being less and less stressful having to go through it all over again. Because you think when you get really bad bone breaks or you get metal plates and screws installed onto the body, or maybe even if they're plastic, it doesn't matter. Like you said, the body will attack it. But if you can, I guess, develop a way, whether it be with the materials itself, whether you have a medication or some sort of treatment to reduce the impact of the body attacking the actual part,
or making the part less hostile, like metal implants in cold weather are painful to the person because it burns from within the bone, which is not your bone anymore. So things like this will have improved already.
So I think that's what they try to focus on when they do the research, because if you try to counteract it completely, and let's just say you do manage to fool the body into ceasing the attacks, what happens against an actual threat to your health? What happens to a cancer that becomes more aggressive? You know, your immune system becomes less inactive because, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is where Maxie will probably have a better understanding, but
yeah.
yeah.
Another thing that I was thinking about is, and this is going to be kind of my final thought on this segment, is the Neuralink. It's if you think about it in that context.
To me, right now, it's a monitoring device, not a gadget.
Yeah, but if you think about it in that concept, Neuralink becomes a little scary, because if you think about it, I like to think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I like to think that psychosis, the cyber psychosis that happens in cyberpunk, is due to some extent to this issue where the body rejects the cyber implants, right?
Actually, I see the hacking, making, frying everybody else's ports. I see a real through there because this is a device that is wirelessly controlled. Doesn't matter how you can explain me how good the security is. Who makes the rule makes the tricks. That's an old saying. So there is a way to breach that security for as hard as it is. Just what is well hidden or well secured now, but eventually hacking and breaching things becomes easier, and that's where security keeps on evolving to more complexities.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I was going to say is, I see, and let's fast forward to a point where Neuralink is now installed in people, and people are going around in their daily life using the Neuralink for A or B reason.
You imagine I wirelessly send you the experience of smelling my fart.
But let's assume for a minute that it's not wireless. That this is just maybe a bridge between you and your phone, whatever it might be. But that's not really the point. What I'm thinking about is the body will still attack it. So I always wonder in this analyzing this from the cyberpunk universe perspective, this could be the very first time that we have a cyberpsychosis, because this is something that is installed on your brain.
Mhm.
Your body will 100% attack it. What's severe, you're messing up with the brain. If something
And
happens to the brain,
how delicate it is. Like you can have a migraine or bleeding, internal bleeding, or
or or
infection.
or you can have a cyberpsychosis.
Yeah, and I mean most of the direct damages to the brain usually are irreversible.
So that's
That's how
something,
delicate.
and I'm sure, if Ray would be here, he'd probably have a better answer for this. But I always wonder about that, because I know for a fact the
Hey,
body
I'm a
will attack
scientist. I'm a citizen scientist.
it. The body will attack it. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
I mean, the
And
instinct of the immune system is to go and identify the foreign object, whatever it is,
mhm.
and then through a defense mechanism, either destroy it or integrate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different story if it's something installed, on your, let's say, abdomen or your arm, but we're talking about your brain.
Yeah.
So that, for some reason, that made the whole technology a lot more scarier to me.
But you know that the brain is not the most important organ, right?
Correct.
It's the anus.
Well, and I would not
When the
agree with that, but
when the organs were fighting, the anus say, "Okay, I'm not gonna ship for 2 weeks," and everybody was like, "You're the boss, man. Just let us go. Let us release."
awesome. I hope I did Ray justice with the segment. This
Oh yeah.
is actually my very first time doing this segment. Again, Ray is a scientist here. I'm not, so I
I am
try
too.
to. Okay, so Angelus, thank you so much for coming back to this episode. Um, we really enjoy, having you on.
We have to plan another obscure cyberpunk team.
Yeah, maybe try to bring something brighter, which is
I was going to say I really enjoyed torturing you, but
is a unicorn, I know, in the
Please,
cyberpunk universe.
more emotional and more fucked up next time.
Thank you so much for coming to our show. Um, I
We
hope
always
that
enjoy having you, man. And let's see
I
if I
hope
show up in one of the Radio Chaos in future.
there you go. They're waiting for you, man.
Yeah, man.
The invitation is open.
yep.
So, thank you everyone who's listening. We really do appreciate your coming every week to listening to us. Just remember, you do have a way to interact with the show. You can tweet at us. Any comments, anything you'd like to hear or see, or if you have any comments for any of the hosts of the show. And you also have the hotline that you could now uh, leave a voicemail, and we will play it on future episodes. And just so you know, the number again is 305 563 6334.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I hope to see you in future episodes. Bye.
Dun, 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 dun.